Alrighty, guys, we're coming fresh off a 4-1 day. My 5 personal sports bets on my website yesterday. And the only way you could access all 5 of those personal plays is to be a board member on that site. Board members get access to every single personal play, every single package, every single day for the next 30 days. The math works out to be just $1.66 a day if you sign up here today. But before we get into some more of that, just want to take a quick time out and welcome you to my college basketball free pick video here today for Wednesday, February 22nd, 2023. Happy hump day to you. Weekend's right around the corner. We're halfway there. My name is Brock Page. I've been doing sports picks for free right here on YouTube since 2016. And if you want to see which one of these free plays on these videos that I'm actually betting on personally, you may want to think about signing up for my full access, all-inclusive board member package on my website. Once again, guys, board members get access to every single personal bet of mine, every single package, every single day for the next 30 days. The math works out to be just $1.66 a day if you sign up here today. It's cheaper than your daily cup of coffee, cheaper than a McDouble, cheaper than a McChicken. I'll tell you what, most other handicappers, they're going to charge you a couple $100 just for a day or two of service. It's so baffling to me, I can't even spit it out. Now, guys, I currently have over 530 members who are signed up and active on my site right now. And you may be wondering what the difference is between what I do here on YouTube and what I do on my website. Well, what I do here on YouTube is, I'll handicap the entire slate of games in any given sport, side and total, the whole slate, the whole 9. What I do on my website is I actually share with you which one of these free picks on these videos that I'm actually betting on personally. And with that, guys, let's go ahead and dive into some free content. We're going to start off in the Big East. I'm talking about Providence at UConn, 6:30 p.m. East. UConn's -7, totals 143. And even though this is a pretty big number, I do think the Huskies can cover here. They're 13-2 in the Gamble Pavilion. They're also in the top 10 in the entire country in guarding the three-pointer at home. They're limiting their competition to just 26% shooting from three-land in their own arena. Adama Sanogo, he has 18 blocks on the year and 23 total steals. Sanogo also leads the team in scoring, and he's drilling nearly 40% of his three-pointers. Now, Jordan Hawkins, he's averaging over 16 points a game himself, and he knocks down nearly 40% of his long balls as well. They're facing a Providence team on the other side who plays just 500 basketball on the road. And if you include neutral site contests, they're just 5-7 straight up in all of their contests away from campus. Now, more recently here, guys, the Friars failed to cover against the likes of St. John's, Georgetown, and Marquette. And in their last 10 head-to-head meetings with UConn, Providence has been held to just 67 points a game. Now, total-wise, oddly enough, Providence did see 3 out of their last 5 get over the line. Meanwhile, UConn's 11-40 the over in their own building. I'm going to lean toward UConn -7 over 143. Next contest, it is going to be Virginia taking on Boston College, 7 o'clock Eastern tip-off. The Virginia Cavaliers are -8.5, totals 125 and a hook. Now, the Cavaliers have done a real nice job with ACC opponents. They're 13-3 in conference action this year. And they've held Boston College to just 55 points a game in their last 10 meetings with each other. Armand Franklin, he has over 20 steals on the season along with double-digit blocks. He's also Virginia's leading scorer and drills 40% of his three-pointers. Meanwhile, Kihei Clark, he's scoring double-digit points a game, and he drills 40% of his long balls as well. They're facing a BC team who struggles to get on the scoreboard themselves. Matter of fact, these guys are one of the worst home scoring teams in the country. When it comes to shooting from long range, Boston College is making only 27% of their three-pointers at home. Now, total-wise, Boston College saw unders against the likes of Pitt, Clemson, and UNC. Meanwhile, Virginia saw 4 out of their last 6 stay under the total themselves. Give me Virginia -8.5, under 125 and a hook. Next game, Temple, Cincinnati, 7 o'clock East. Cincy's the 8-point favorite at home. Total's 140. Now, Cincy's been real tough to beat at home. They're 13-3 this year in the Fifth Third Arena. They're also scoring 80 points a game on their home court. Landers Nolly, he leads the team in points and also drills over 42% of his three-pointers. Meanwhile, David JaJulius, he's making just about 40% of his long balls as well. They're facing a Temple squad who lost 4 out of their last 5. And they average only 64 points a game in their last 10 head-to-head meetings with Cincy. So if you're into historical trends, certainly want to think about that one there. Needless to say, the Owls lost 7 out of their last 10 head-to-head meetings with the Bearcats. And as far as this season's concerned, well, Temple's one of the lower scoring road teams in the AAC. Now, injury-wise, Khalif Battle's questionable for the Owls. Shane Dezonie's still out. When it comes to the number, Temple saw unders in 6 out of their last 10 meetings with Cincy. So once again, if you're into historical trends, plenty of unders to go around. Meanwhile, the Bearcats on the other side, they went 5-2 to the under in their last 7 conference home games. Give me Cincy, -8, under 140. Next matchup, it is going to be South Florida taking on UCF, 7 o'clock East. The Central Florida Knights, UCF, they are -9 at home. Totals 140. For a team laying nearly double digits, well, UCF's had a tough time getting the W lately. They're just 2-7 in their last 9. And they have a losing record against the point spread in conference play. And in their last 10 head-to-head meetings with South Florida, the Knights averaged only 64 points a game. And speaking of the battling Bulls of South Florida, well, USF's a top 25 scoring team on the road this season. Bulls are averaging 77 points a game away from Tampa, and they're one of the best road offensive teams in the AAC. Russell Chiwa, he averages nearly 9 rebounds a game, along with 11.5 points. Meanwhile, Tyler Harris, he scores over 16.5 points a game himself, and he's drilling just about 40% of his three-pointers. Now, when it comes to the scoring, USF's 8-1 to the over in their road games. They're also 74% to the over for the entire season. Meanwhile, UCF went 10-5 to the over in their own building. Give me the South Florida Bulls, +9, over 140. Next matchup, it is going to be Vanderbilt, LSU, 7 o'clock East. Vandy's -2 on the road, totals 141. Now, Vandy got the W in their last 5 straight. They've got a winning record in conference play. They're also doing a nice job offensively on the road. Commodores are averaging 73 points a night in their travels. Liam Robbins, he averages a team-high 15 points per contest, along with 6 rebounds. Meanwhile, Tyron Lawrence, he's second on the team in scoring and averages 4 boards a game. They're facing an LSU team who lost 14 straight, and they have only 1 conference win this year. Once again, LSU, 14-game losing streak, 1 conference win on the year. When it comes to offensive production, the Tigers are averaging only 66 points a game. Now, total-wise, LSU saw overs against the likes of South Carolina, Missouri, and Texas Tech. Meanwhile, Vandy went 7-2 to the over in their last 9 on the road. Give me LSU +2, over 141. Next matchup, it is going to be Kentucky at Florida, 7 o'clock East. The Kentucky Wildcats are -2.5, totals 140 and a hook. The Tigers. Who are the Tigers? The Wildcats won 7 out of their last 10, and they covered the point spread in 70% of those contests. They're also one of the best rebounding teams in the country. They're in the top 20 in offensive rebounding on the road, top 15 in defensive boards. Oscar Tshiebwe, he's grabbing 13 rebounds a night. He also leads the team in points. As a matter of fact, Tshiebwe leads the entire country in rebounds per contest. Meanwhile, Antonio Reeves, he's drilling 41% of his shots from beyond the arc. They're facing a Florida team who's going to work without their top guy. That's Colin Castleton. And in their last 10 meetings with Kentucky, the Gators were held to just 63 points per contest. And they got the W only twice. Now, when it comes to scoring, Florida did see their last 5 straight all get over the number. Meanwhile, Kentucky went 80% to the over in their last 10. Give me Kentucky minus 2.5, over 140 and a hook. Next game, it is going to be Minnesota taking on Maryland, 7 o'clock Eastern tip-off. The Maryland Terrapins are minus 15.5, totals 130. Now, the Terps have been very tough to beat in the Xfinity Center. They're 14-1 at home this year, and they covered in 73% of those contests. Now, the Terps also beat Minnesota in 9 out of their last 10 head-to-head gatherings. They covered the point spread in 90% of those games. Jameer Young, he scores a team-high 16 points per contest, along with 4 rebounds. Meanwhile, Hakeem Hart, he's averaging just about a dozen points a game himself. They're facing a Minnesota squad who lost their last 10 straight. They have just one conference win this year. That's right. Out of 15 games against the Big Ten, the Gophs have scored just one victory. When it comes to offensive production, Minnesota averages only 61 points a game. Now, when it comes to the total, the Gophs are 64% to the under for the entire year. No real surprise there. They can't score points. Meanwhile, Maryland's 18-9 to the under for the entire season. Give me Maryland minus 15.5, under 130 in the tight window. Next game, Syracuse, Clemson, 7 o'clock East. Clemson Tigers are minus 4, totals 143.5. Now, the Tigers have been nearly perfect in Little John Coliseum. They're 13-1 in Death Valley, and they really shoot the ball well there. Clemson's making over 80% of their free throws. They actually have a higher offensive free throw percentage than any other team in the country except for one. Clemson's also shooting it really well from three-land. They're making nearly 40% of their shots from beyond the arc. I'm not sure if they call the basketball arena Death Valley, by the way. Near Death Valley, I guess. Anyway, Hunter Tyson. He's a player for Clemson, and he's drilling 41% of his long balls. He also leads the team in scoring. Meanwhile, P.J. Hall, he's scoring over 15 points a night himself. He also makes just about 40% of his three-pointers. When it comes to defensive play, Clemson's limiting their competition to just 38% shooting from the field on their own court. They're facing a Syracuse team who scores just 69 points a game while traveling. They make only 32% of their three-pointers in that same category. And in their last 10 head-to-head meetings with Clemson, Syracuse has been limited to only 66 points per contest. Now, total-wise, oddly enough, Syracuse has gone 6-3 to the over in their last 9 on the road. Meanwhile, Clemson's 63% to the over for the entire season. I'm going to lean toward Clemson minus 4, over 143.5. Next game, Tulane, Houston, 9 o'clock Eastern start time. Houston's minus 15, totals 144. And as good as Houston's been, it's actually Tulane who got the W in 8 out of their last 10 themselves. And they actually lead the nation in road points per game. Green Wave's averaging 86 points a game when they travel. That's more than any other team in the country on the road. Jalen Cook scores over 20 points a night and ranks in the top 25 in the nation in points per game. Meanwhile, Jalen Forbes is second on the team in scoring with over 18.5 points per contest. They're facing a Houston club who failed to cover in 5 out of their last 7 conference ball games at home. And speaking of offensive production, the Cougs are making just 69% of their free throws in the Fertitta Center. Now, total-wise, Houston saw 5 out of their last 7 get over the total. Meanwhile, Tulane's 6-1 to the over in their last 7 on the road. I'm going to lean toward Tulane plus 15, over 144. Next matchup, UNC, Notre Dame, 9 o'clock East. North Carolina's minus 6 on the road, totals 148. Now, the Heels did lose 5 out of their last 6. And they've been pretty bad against the number recently as well. UNC failed to cover in 7 out of their last 9. And they win only 22% of their road games. They're facing a Notre Dame squad who's got double-digit victories at home, despite their overall record. When it comes to offensive production, Nate Laszewski, he scores a team-high 14 points a game. And Nate's also drilling 42% of his three-pointers. Now, Dane Goodwin, he averages over a dozen points a night himself. He's also making nearly 40% of his three balls. Now, more recently, Notre Dame covered against the likes of Virginia, Duke, and NC State. When it comes to the total, Notre Dame's gone 11-5 to the over in their conference ball games. Meanwhile, North Carolina saw overs recently against the likes of Clemson and Wake Forest. Give me Notre Dame +6, over 148. Next matchup, Ole Miss, Auburn, 9 o'clock Eastern tip-off. The Auburn Tigers are -13, totals 136. Now, the Tigers are 12-2 in the Neville Arena. They're in the top 5 in guarding the three-pointer. They're holding their competition at just 27% shooting from three-land. They're also in the top 15 in defensive field goal percentage. Johnny Broome has over 60 blocks on the season and 25 steals. Now, Broomhandle also leads the team in points. Meanwhile, Wendell Green Jr., he averages over 13.5 points per contest himself. They're facing an Ole Miss squad who lost 8 out of their last 9. And they failed to cover 7 times during that span. And out of 14 conference ball games, the Rebels got the W only 2 times. That's it. 2-12. 2-12. Now, they're arguably the worst shooting team on the road in the SEC. And when it comes to the injury report, Ruffin and Ewan are still out. Caldwell's questionable. Now, total-wise, Ole Miss saw unders recently against the likes of Arkansas and South Carolina twice. Meanwhile, Auburn went 4-1 to the under in their last 5. Give me Auburn -13, under 136. Next game, Big Ten action, Iowa, Wisconsin, 9 o'clock East. Iowa's -1 on the road, totals 139. Now, the Hawkeyes have been playing some pretty bad basketball on the road. They're 3-6 straight up while traveling, and they're one of the worst defensive rebounding teams in the Big Ten away from home. They're facing a Wisconsin club who allows like no points a game in the Kohl Center. They're giving up just 59 points a game at home. Chucky Hepburn, he has over 40 steals on the season. He also leads the team in points offensively. Chuck's also shooting over 44% from beyond the arc. Meanwhile, Connor Esigian, he's drilling over 40% of his three-pointers. Now, total-wise, Wisconsin 7-1 to the under in their conference home games. Meanwhile, Iowa went 8-4 to the under in all of their contests away from home. That includes neutral sites. Give me Wisconsin +1, under 139. Next contest, a little ACC action. Talking about Wake Forest at NC State, 9 o'clock Eastern start time. NC State's -6, totals 157. Now the Wolfpack's 14-1 in their own building, and they're scoring 83 points a game there. Casey Morsell, he's knocking down nearly 43% of his long-range shots. Terquavion Smith, he averages a team-high 18 points a night as well. They're facing a Wake Forest team who lost 5 out of their last 8 conference road games, and they've certainly had a tough time with NC State in recent meetings. They lost 7 out of their last 10 contests against NC State. They gave up nearly 80 points a game in those meetings. As far as this season's concerned, the Deacs are one of the worst road defensive teams in the ACC. Now, injury-wise, Wake Forest is 81% to the over in their conference ball games. Meanwhile, NC State's gone 60% to the over in the PNC Arena. Give me NC State -6, over 157. Next matchup, St. John's, Georgetown, 9 o'clock Eastern start time. St. John's is -2, totals 156. Now, the Red Storm certainly has had no issue scoring points. They're averaging 77 points a game, and they're also in the top 10 in the nation in offensive boards. Joel Soriano, he grabs a dozen rebounds a game. He also leads the team in points. Soriano's actually 4th in the country in rebounds per contest. Meanwhile, David Jones, he averages nearly 7 rebounds a night himself, along with a dozen points. They're facing a Georgetown team who's having a tough time within the conference. Out of 17 conference ball games, how many wins do you think they got? Out of 17 conference ball games, how many wins do you think Georgetown has? 2. Georgetown got the W only twice. When it comes to defensive play, the Hoyas are allowing more points per contest than most teams in the nation. They're giving up nearly 78 points per contest on average. And when it comes to the total, Georgetown saw overs recently against Seton Hall, Marquette, and DePaul. Meanwhile, St. John's went 6-3 to the over in their last 9 on the road. Give me St. John's -2 over 156. All right, next and final breakdown for the video. It is going to be New Mexico at Boise State, 10:30 p.m. East. Boise's -5.5, totals 147. Now, the Broncos are a perfect 7-0 at home this year against Mountain West opponents. They're also one of the toughest teams to score against in the country. They're in the top 20 in the entire nation in points allowed per contest. Marcus Shaver has nearly 40 steals on the season and a handful of blocks. Now, Shaver's also second on the team in points. Meanwhile, Tyson Digenhart, he leads the team in scoring. He also makes over 54% of his attempts from the field. And they're facing a New Mexico team who's really struggling in conference play after a hot start to the season. The Lobos are playing just .500 basketball against the Mountain West, and they have a losing road record in conference play as well. Now, they have had their hands full with Boise in recent gatherings. They failed to cover in 8 out of their last 10 games against the Broncos. They got held to only 67 points a game in those meetings. Now, total-wise, New Mexico went 6-1 to the over in their Mountain West road games. Meanwhile, Boise's 10-4 to the over in their conference contest themselves. Give me Boise State -5.5 over 147. And with that, guys, we're going to go ahead and jump into our quick pick recap. Jacksonville -5 over 122. UMass Lowell -2.5 over 150 and a hook. Army -2 under 138. I went 4-1 in my 5 personal sports bets on my website yesterday. And the only way you could have accessed all of those plays is to join my full access, all-inclusive board member package on that site. Give me UNC-Asheville -9 over 145. UConn -7 over 143. American University +2 under 127. Virginia Cavaliers -8.5 under 125 and a hook. Clemson -4 over 143.5. New Hampshire -3 under 133. Bryant -6 over 140.5. Binghamton +14 under 138. Bradley -8 over 137. Lehigh -3 under 143. Cincinnati -8 under 140. UCF -8. Timeout. You know what? We're just going to write the picks in the comments.